it's easy to create a podcast, more or less. It's hard to create an engaging podcast that people want to listen to, that people want to talk about and tell their friends. A podcast where people want to get in touch with you, the host, and connect with you and your community. And that's what I'm going to do here in this episode 40 of Clipped. So an engaging podcast is one that connects listeners and offers them some kind of value, whether you're teaching somebody something, you're making them laugh, you're provoking some kind of thought or opinion in them. Whatever it is, the point is to build a sense of community, because that's how you're going to grow, that's how you're going to excel, and that's how people are going to want to be involved with your world and your ecosystem. And by focusing on this stuff, you as a host can create a podcast that people can't get enough of and that people will keep coming back for week to week and be excited about. So we're going to talk about 5 steps to do this. So 5 steps to build an engaging podcast. The first is define your niche and audience. The second step is to develop a content plan. The third step is to promote your podcast to your audience. The fourth is how to engage with your listeners. And the fifth is the importance of having a point of view. So let's dive in with number 1 here. Define your niche and audience. There's tons of benefits to having a well-defined audience and finding that ideal listener. And I think the best way to do that is to have some sort of specific topic. You don't want to go broad. Really, in my opinion, you want to build upon experience that you already have with a hobby that you already have, or combining life experience that you already have with something that you're interested in that you like to talk about, maybe even something that you are still learning about. And, you know, it only takes you being one step ahead of someone else to teach them. And so I think kind of narrowing that focus down is how you're going to find an audience that wants to hear what you have to say. For instance, maybe you're into baseball cards. I know baseball cards are huge right now. Maybe you have a podcast about baseball cards, and maybe that's something that you've been into, you've been collecting since you're a kid, and maybe your career, your 9 to 5 is you're a financial planner or you're an accountant. And so maybe you create a podcast about like the business side of baseball cards or the financial side of baseball cards, where you talk about certain cards that are worth a lot of money or collections that people are building, and how they sell those on eBay or how they flip those on, you know, a secondary market, how people have monetized their baseball card collections. So in that case, you're talking about something that you have experience in, which is your 9 to 5 in the financial sector, with this hobby that you've been into for X amount of years in your life, and bring those two things together. And you're going to create a niche audience that is unique. All right, so step 2, develop a content plan. And this can take many shapes and forms, but really you need a roadmap for your show. You need to know where you're going, and you need to know how to get to where you're going. And I think there's different ways that you could do that. And I like to look at it as like different types of episodes, different pieces of the same pie. So you could have a solo episode where you're talking, let's use the baseball card example. So you could have a solo episode where you're talking about maybe your collection of baseball cards and how you've monetized over the years this collection by flipping them, by collecting them. Then you could have an interview show, or maybe you bring on someone from a baseball card shop or like a well-known collector in the industry, and they talk about their experience and how their business works and how they make money from baseball cards. Or maybe like one week you could do a news story. Maybe like somebody just bought somewhere this famous like Mickey Mantle or Babe Ruth card or Jackie Robinson card, and you report on that, things that are happening in that industry. Or maybe one episode you throw out some statistics about the industry or data. People love numbers and data. It kind of helps them legitimize what's going on. And so these are different types of content that you could use around your main focus, which is the financial side of collecting baseball cards. And I think you want to plan these out. And the key is you don't want to do like 3 episodes back to back where you're just talking about like data or statistics in the industry, or 3 interviews back to back with like collectors or card shop owners. you want to try to pepper these in and be strategic. That way your audience is going to know what the overall theme is each week, but they're going to be surprised. And you want to keep people a little bit surprised, because if you're constantly doing the same thing over and over again, it may get boring. And so by teasing in these different ideas and different concepts, I think you're going to, people are just going to get excited. Just a change of pace, it's a change of tone, it's a change of speed, and it's a change of emotion or vibe. And I think that people that already bought into your world are going to like that. Okay, step 3, promoting your podcast. Maybe the hardest part of all of this, of podcasting, is promoting your podcast, figuring out where to do it, how to do it, when to do it, what platform to do it on. I'm just going to shoot. I've got these written down. This is like 6 or 7 different ideas of how you can promote your podcast to your right audience. And the key with promotion is creating engaging content. And so the first thing that I can think of, and that I do, and that I'm sure you've seen everybody do, is turn your podcast video into short form content that you can dribble across Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, etc. And if you don't have a video podcast, let's just sidebar for a second. I think you should, and here's why. And I've talked about this in the past, but the podcast clips that people are cutting together that I'm sure you've seen, those are great for brand awareness and discoverability. And I don't know that because someone sees a clip, a 30-second clip of your something you said on your podcast on TikTok, that they're going to go subscribe and like listen to the long form version of your podcast. But you're creating brand awareness. And those snippets are great for engagement because people comment on them. People remix them on like Instagram. You can remix stuff. People share them. And so it's going to help get your name out there, and it's going to help your brand, and it's going to help discoverability. And that's overall going to slowly grow your audience. But here's some other ways. Get your episodes transcribed. Turn an episode into a blog post. I've done that. Blogs are engaging. I know that's a little bit different audience because that's people that like to read rather than people that like to listen. But that is also going to help drive traffic to your podcast, to your website, to your brand, to your business. Pull quotes from the transcript. These are great for Twitter. The blog post is great for LinkedIn. Show notes, and write engaging show notes, and make sure you put those on your website. And when you're promoting on social media, make sure you put a universal link to the podcast. And the service that I like best for this is called Podlink, and that's POD link, LINK.com. And you can share a universal link to your podcast. And when they click on that, they're going to be taken to podcast, and there's going to be all these icons where they can listen on Apple, Spotify, Overcast, iHeart, Amazon. So a universal link for your podcast via Podlink is important. Always use a universal link when sharing. Go on other podcasts, like-minded podcasts. Find other shows in your niche, and ask them if you can come on. Create a one-sheet pitching why you'd be a good guest, and reach out to people. That's going to help you grow, because people that listen to that show, that trust that host, are going to trust that they brought on a guest that's going to provide them value. And if they like you, they're going to check out your podcast. Find groups and get involved. Facebook groups, discussions on LinkedIn. Another one is ad swaps. So you record a promo for a like-minded podcast, and they create a promo for your podcast, and you both drop those into your feeds. You're going to promote them. They're going to promote you. And that in turn is going to drive people to your podcast and to the podcast that you're promoting. Great way to build that community. Help yourself, but also helping other podcasters in that similar genre. Then there's paid promotion. I talked about this in episode 32. So go and check that out, guys. Episode 32 of Clipped. But there's a lot of ways to use paid processes to promote your podcast. I love promoting on Overcast, Pod News, and Podcast Business Journal. I've gotten followers and subscribers from those that have stuck around, and it's definitely increased my downloads and improved my analytics and listenership. The next one is Google Trends. I know I'm spitting a lot at you, and I'm going to put this in the show notes, all these services that I have mentioned. Google Trends. So this is great for creating episode titles with the correct keywords and finding episodes to podcast about. that people are searching for. So you can go to Google Trends, it's free, and you can type in a topic and it'll tell you how much traffic that topic has gotten in like, the month, 6 months, a month, 6 months, a year, etc. And so you can see if the topic that you want to do an episode about is getting traction on the web. That's going to help you when you do a podcast about that, because there's already interest out there in the world. And then too that you can use that keyword in your episode title somehow, and people are searching for that keyword. Your podcast is going to come up. Lastly, attend industry events. Just got back from Podcast Movement in Las Vegas. Was awesome. Met a lot of great people, built relationships, and that's key. Step 4, engage with your audience. Create private groups, Zooms, Discord, your email newsletter. Collect those emails and write people engaging emails. Don't just shove your content down their throats. Ask them questions. What are they liking about your show? What are they not liking? Give them resources, give them websites to go to, give them the lowdown on what's happening in the industry. Ask questions. Don't just push your content. And another one is respond to people on social. If they take the time to comment on what you put out, dude, leave them another comment, like it, get a dialogue going, show them that you're human. Which leads me into this. Use a personal anecdote in your podcast from time to time. Get vulnerable. Obviously, it's important to stay on topic, but I think adding those personal touches here and there can help make you relatable, can help make you feel human. Maybe you tell the story of how you started your podcast and got to where you are, and some of the wins and losses. Or going back to the baseball card example, maybe it took you years and years to build your collection, and maybe you lost a few cards along the way, or you sold a card for way under value and you realized later that you could have made a lot more money on it. Stories, I definitely share the wins to inspire people, but I think the losses actually inspire people even more, because it makes them realize that you're human. Because I think as a podcaster or as a content creator, whatever it is, some kind of host or personality or celebrity athlete, we tend to put people on pedestals and think that their life is perfect, or that, they're so wealthy and they're putting out this amazing podcast and everything they do looks amazing and great. But people have struggles. I have OCD, and I haven't shared that on here, but I have OCD, and that's something that I struggle with, that I get treated via therapy. But in any case, let people know who you are, how you got to where you are. Just share those stories here and there. Make them relate to your episode. Don't just go off on these random sidebars. But I think you'll find that the more you do that strategically, the more people are going to like that, because they're going to like you as a person. Okay, so offer exclusive content as well. Whether this is paid or free, people want access to you. If they're listening to your podcast and you want to create more engagement, again, whether that's Patreon, whether that's a Zoom group, whether that's like a weekly or bi-weekly Q&A, whatever it is, engage with your audience. They're the only reason that you're in this, really, is because they're listening to your show. So show that respect, and it should come naturally. It shouldn't be like something that's a grind or that you don't want to do. Get involved, human to human. Lastly, number 5, have a point of view. You need to be known for something. Think about what makes you different and your show different, and why are you the perfect person to talk about baseball cards and the financial side of the baseball card market. Listeners are going to be drawn to that. And when I say have a point of view, say what you want to say, be yourself, but are you the funny guy? Are you the contrarian? Are you the straight shooter? And you don't have to make one up. Your podcast should reflect who you are. I think your thoughts about the industry that you're in, it's okay to voice those thoughts, whether they're negative, whether they're positive. If you like something, say that you like it. If you don't like something, say you don't like it. I think being too politically correct or worrying, I think as brands, people try to walk this fine line. And I think sometimes that can work, but I think sometimes it just kind of puts you in the middle of the pack. I think you need to be bold and edgy a little bit. And it's not this forced thing, but that should come out naturally, as if you're talking to your friends or your family, or you're out at a bar, just just being who you are and saying what you want to say. I think being too politically correct, in my opinion, is just going to make you like everybody else. I think the key is to do it in a way that's authentic. And then people are going to pick up on that. That's like the vibe of your show. It's your differentiator. And so, yeah, have a point of view. Be bold. All right, guys, that is it for me. Thank you for listening, guys. Would love for you to give the podcast a follow and a rating and a review. The next person that leaves a rating and or a review, or both, yeah, you got to do both. I'm going to give you a shout out on the podcast because I want to know who you are. I want to connect with you. And if you're feeling the podcast, would love to hear about it. If you have any questions or comments, you can shoot them to info@thepodcasthaven.com. Let me know what you got going on. Happy to hear about your projects. I love talking about podcasting. That's info@thepodcasthaven.com. And again, leave a rating and review, and I will feature you on the show. I'm out, guys. Thanks.